Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Shadowverse. Let's hop back in. So we're gonna do Uriah's story today, which has the potential to potentially be interesting or could be fairly dull. Luna's story was alright, but kind of secondary to Isabella's story. And while I will say the Gears of Rebellion chapter is a major improvement over the Guild War and the Morningstar chapters, which had you being told the same bad story from 8 leaders' perspective, compared to being told a better story from 4 leaders' perspective. We are running into an issue where Isabel and the events that Isabel saw seem to mostly be the important ones. Now that might very well just be because Luna's story was very secondary and didn't really seem to accomplish too much other than to get the youngest sister of the 3 robot sisters to come back and work with them together, and almost certainly at the end all 3 of them will need to work together to defeat Baphomet. There are some hanging mysteries, however, which is way more interesting than it has ever been before, because we still don't know what happened to J2. We really don't know what the deal with Mono is. We really don't know what Urias's actions are going to be in this story. If Urias was just written like he has been up until this point, he's just going to run around seeking people to fight, but from what we've seen in the story, it doesn't seem like there actually is anybody to fight, just robots, which are fairly weak. There is also the question about, was Yuan originally here in this section, or was he added later? Which, if he was added later, it's going to be kind of hard to make that guess, because the writing now is improved, so unless Yuan's writing is 2 or 3 more steps up, and we're already getting to the point where I'd be willing to call this somewhere between a 5 and a 7 in the writing. So unless Yuan was a 7 to a 10, it'd be hard to make that judgment that he was added later. And if his writing was that much better, then it becomes this kind of recursive problem where why was his story not written better for chapter 1, 2, and 3, unless they just could not paint themselves out of that corner, or unpaint themselves out of that corner.
I am Tetra, and my world is in danger of total annihilation. A fearsome tyrant named Baphomet threatens us with the unthinkable.
The recap
come from a different world
at the beginning for each of the leaders' perspective is probably the right decision. Maybe you have Urias think something as he's listening to this story different than what Isabel would have thought when the same words were being said. That would be a point where telling the same story from 4 different leaders' perspectives would actually be interesting, instead of this just being a lazy, hey, let's make him watch the same recap and the same sum up. Particularly when we get to the end of these stories, we get a very long, pretty bad speech as a wrap up by Tetra. So you kind of have a bad sandwich effect, where the bread is a little bit off, a little bit stale, but the inner ingredients tend to be a lot better than they were. It's kind of weird that they have Erica talk at that point. I mean, I guess you could do it one way or the other. Have each of the characters talk, but then it kind of doesn't matter. Like, it really would have been better to just had only Isabella, Luna, and Urias and Yuan talk, since they're the only characters that actually make it to the robot world, at least as far as we know. Or you have the 4 leaders that don't make it to the new world speak, so then they stand out as characters to be missed because they didn't make it over to the new world. But instead they kind of just fell back into the same pattern of saying, well, each leader has to have their one line of speech, which honestly I don't think, oops, what did I do here? I didn't skip the battle, that's what happened. Yeah, I don't think the voice actors in this game would be paid in such a weird way.
Really gone downhill. I think we might be on
What
our
is
last
this?
legs.
Humanoid robots.
I'm not sure how much longer we can last like this.
Well, this is definitely different. And we'll have to see if we see copies of the same townspeople.
How disappointing.
It would kind of make sense if there was
Not wearing the requisite uniform?
a like clone versions of these robots, because that would make sense at in that instance.
You wearing that.
Warning. Uniform violators are subject to disciplinary measures. Please change into the mandatory uniform immediately.
His outfit's not too terrible as far as
This has nothing to do with us. Come on,
with
hurry.
his outfit's not that off from. I don't know what specifically is required.
Subject to disciplinary measures. Please change into the mandatory uniform immediately.
And it seems like instead of attacking people for not wearing the uniform, they would just have a robot that would just automatically put them in the right uniform.
Are strictly forbidden by Lord Belphomet. Violation of this decree
These
is subject to disciplinary
police-like robots
You appear to be akin to an
act
alchemist's
like they're
golem,
dealing
and yet
with independent thinking robots and humans more than what they would have been designed to do, which would have been to just ensure that already compliant robots are capable of complying. Like, if you think about a manufacturing line, there is not usually on manufacturing lines a robot going up and down smacking the other robots when they are glitching. There more than likely would be a robot going up and down fixing those robots so they could stop glitching. And it's kind of odd the phrase glitch has not been really mentioned too much.
trifling.
Hostile unit confirmed. Initiating termination protocol.
So I guess at a certain point here,
Hostile unit confirmed.
we're gonna have to burn through Urias's
Perhaps it's
default
too soon to
intention to
dismiss
cause
this
trouble.
world entirely. But at this point, I do find it terribly unexciting.
Yeah. The only thing I could think he would really do is
Destroyed those enforcers like that.
he could try to
If Lord Belphomet
get
finds
as
out, he'll
many
have him terminated.
robots to attack him at once,
Was it?
but he doesn't seem to really enjoy
And my
more
world is in
than
danger of
one-on-one
total
combat.
annihilation. A fearsome tyrant named Belphomet threatens us with the unthinkable.
Ah, yes, another puppet of the Keeper's. Perhaps he will provide me with some entertainment. And yet, I don't sense any powerful rivals. They could be hiding their potential, like that woman.
So he can't sense the robots, apparently.
Tell me where I may find Belphomet.
What are you planning to do?
Don't tell him a peep. We shouldn't get involved. He'll drag us down with him.
You're right. Let's get out of here.
You definitely have a feeling here that these
So
are
hard to find
these
good
would have just
guidance
been
these
pre-made
days.
characters animated by
didn't
someone
like you.
else.
Doesn't seem like you would care either way.
Um,
Would it kill you to try being more cordial?
I presume, nay, calculate that you actively try to repel those around you.
What can I say? I cannot recall a time when people found me approachable.
Black armor, white hair, crimson eyes, dangerous, violent, and fierce. To think a timid creature like me would approach you. But here we are, Mr. Urias Formand.
Indeed. And who are you?
I'm Mono. I believe you've already met my sister, Tetra. Well, sister in a figurative sense. Not like we robots have blood or anything, but we were made in a similar manner for similar purposes. Ewan asked me to come locate you.
So that's how she knows who he is.
And what will you do now that you found me?
I told him I would guide you to the nearest resistance hideout, meaning I'll be your chaperone for a bit, if you'll have me.
Ha! Perhaps he did not mention that I am not so easily controlled.
Very true. He did not mention that. But I've already parsed every conceivable conclusion that would result from attempting to persuade you with force. A pointless undertaking, it looks like.
So apparently Mono is fairly smart.
I'm glad we've reached an understanding. Now, if you will excuse me.
You know nothing of this world, correct? Acting without understanding our societal structures sounds like a bad call to me. And bad calls usually don't work out in anyone's favor.
Are you suggesting I am your inferior?
Oh, I would never! I was just trying to make my position clear. Not that I can do much to convince you either way.
So she's playing him like a fiddle, I think.
Initiating termination protocol. Hostile unit confirmed. Initiating
I kind of think we might see Mono fight here,
You can come with me,
and
or you can continue
he
to
might
clean up your
become,
actual inferiors. As monotonous as that may sound. Well, what's it gonna be?
once again, it looks like her lips aren't moving half the time.
Perfect.
Like,
Now this is where I should say, please, kind vampire, right this way. But to be frank, as timid as I am, I'm that much weaker. Not to mention this sudden attack did quite a number on my core. But don't worry, this won't shut me down permanently. But I do need to go into sleep mode for a while.
again, we're having an issue here where these guys could sound very robotic, or just like bad voice acting, as far as sounding like a robot. I guess there is probably a great argument that things like auto-tune are now effectively free and easy to do through phone apps, so it would be fairly easy to have somebody read their lines normally and then tweak the audio later.
There, fully operational. Good morning.
But that's not what they did
kind
here.
Vampire. Is it morning? It's hard to tell from
I
all the
think it's
searchlights.
probably
What do you think?
just
Early
bad
afternoon,
of
maybe?
a bad voice director.
You kept me waiting, little one.
Inexperienced voice director.
Well, thank you for your concern.
At
That
least for the
attack
English
from the enforcer
localization.
Earlier had some sort of effect on my inner workings.
And certainly this would be
As
kind of a
for
weird
other
job
damage,
to be
well, the
hired
small
by
exterior
a
blemish
Korean
produced as you
company or a
forcefully
Japanese
picked me up.
company
I
in
don't think it'll be a
America
problem, though.
and just told to
Right. So where
hire
was
a
it
whole
you thought to take
team
me?
of voice actors to do a whole bunch
A
of dialogue.
resistance hideout, but your mannerisms suggest that you find this unsuitable. The wavelengths of the voice, the slight dilation of the pupils. Yes, you're not gonna come with me, are you?
What is at this
Mono
hideout?
is
I search for
potentially
Belphegor.
dangerous,
You would do well to take me to him.
like where she's just gonna
I
get too
do know
wordy,
where
and
and
it's,
how you can meet him,
I
but
potentially am
wouldn't
not going
recommend
to
it. If you were to
pay
clash,
attention.
There's a high probability this world would suffer massive casualties.
That is none of my concern.
I predicted as much, but I beg you to reconsider. Did you or did you not come to save us?
The problems of your world are of no concern to me. Whether your end is salvation or sacrifice, it matters not. I thirst for one thing only. Ever greater battle.
A berserker then, are you? Of all the literature stored in my memory bank, references to them state that they, driven by rage and passion, are the most savage warriors of all.
Again,
Do
just
you have any
tiny
record
lip
of
movements.
vampires in this bank?
Where her
That's what I truly
memories come from is
Vampire.
questionable.
Unexpected, but
And
yes, I've located an entry. Monsters
Like-
that drain blood from humans for sustenance. Makes me glad we've already established none is flowing through my veins, being a robot and all.
A robot? That metal creature from before. Is he one of your species as well?
it'd be funny if he bit her
Close.
and
It's true
then
that we're both
ended up
machines.
drinking
That is to say,
oil
we're functioning
and getting
objects
poisoned by
imagined
it.
by human minds and created by human hands. But still,
So I guess we are
between
getting some
enforcers and
backstory here.
robots, like yours truly,
Is
there's
that
one
at
key
one point
difference.
this world did have
I think
humans.
for myself. Other than my frame, maybe I'm not so different from a human. Oh, alas,
And
I
maybe
can't
there are
be
some
your
humans
food,
somewhere in
however.
this world, but
You are
I don't
sentient.
think we're gonna see them, except for maybe
Something
Baphomet.
like that. Quite a hard concept to define.
Although I wouldn't be
actually.
surprised if Baphomet's a
Beings like
robot
you
also.
know intrinsically that you have a soul, but for us, something happens deep in our circuitry. An error, or a spark, if you will.
Interesting. Then you have free will.
You can choose to call it that if that helps you conceptualize what I am.
This girl is made of metal, so at least in her composition she is strong. Her combat prowess, on the other hand, perhaps she is masking it. The
So-
potential of a lifeless doll that has somehow found a consciousness. It does intrigue me.
So he's hoping that some of these robots will
You still with me?
turn
Judging from that look
into
in your
fighters
eye, I feel
to
I need
compete with him.
re-express a couple of things. I am weak, as you remember from my condition before, and I am not your food, as you remember from 5 minutes ago.
I have not forgotten, but willpower allows humans to exceed their limitations. What if it can do the same for you?
I am not human. Saying it out loud causes my deeper gears to quiver ever so slightly, but I am a machine.
It would be interesting if it turns out she actually
The
is a
power of your
human
conviction
and she's
that
been
interests
hiding.
me.
It would be also interesting.
You would assault me even though
He's
you've seen
gonna
how feeble I am.
potentially push her
I'll add a
to
note to my
be
entry on
stronger.
vampires. They're not very gentlemanly at all.
Do not be mistaken. I only wish to test you.
Well, I can't say I disrespect someone who pursues empiric experimentation, but still, you're going about it all wrong.
If I
Yeah, it
destroy
is an
you,
interesting idea if your eyes
that
does
will be the
just
end.
become
Now
this
ready
driving
yourself.
force to make people around them better themselves as fighters.
This is troubling. Absolutely the worst! Why is it that I always end up in the most unpleasant of predicaments?
In all fairness to the voice director, I'm not sure
All vampires as dim-witted
what
as you.
voice
I
I
am
would
weak.
choose
If
for a
you come
character
at me
that
with
looks like
much
this.
force,
Liar.
I would think I
can
would
tell
probably
you
go
are
with
holding
something
back.
more of a
mm,
prim and proper, held back
You
voice.
think to escape?
And if her name is
Go
Mono,
ahead.
she probably has a fairly monotonous
No,
voice
your
in
eye is
the
for
original
Mon.
language.
do you know what I feel in my soul right now? It's anger. Can you imagine why? You've brought my fury to its limits. And at this point, I'm afraid I wouldn't be satisfied with merely running away. Nope. I would say a little bit of payback is in order for making me feel like this.
Oh, then let us see what you can do.
Just know you've brought this upon yourself.
These stories
Disengaging safeguards.
have done a good deal of not
Perhaps you were looking for a
having you
distraction
fight
to
the
amuse
old
yourself,
leaders
but I wasn't
instead
made for
fighting new
your
characters.
entertainment. You're going to wish you never saw
And
the
here we
sun,
have a
me.
new CG, and this is nice, but it once again makes the character look very different from the way they usually
Can't spot
look.
me? Well, that doesn't seem fair. Let's give you a hint. Heads up!
Yeah, there is a problem with going with such a cheap
Have you ever
visual
heard the
novel
phrase,
style
"bore someone to death"? It's not
in
my
that the
programming
characters
to
become
kill,
less,
so I guess this is how we
can
keep you
potentially be
alive
less
and well.
recognizable.
Left leg, then abdomen. Missed me. But
So
honestly,
apparently
not by
she's
very
very
much.
fast,
Does a graze count as a
even
hit?
faster.
Whatever. Forehead.
She seems to be having fun.
It is becoming clear now.
Strike with words or strike with fists. It all hurts the same. The most efficient method of attack is to hit both the body and mind simultaneously.
Well, what is this? You seem to be taken by the dance of battle. Let me revel with you.
So they're finding
A
camaraderie
duet is best
in
performed when the dancers
battle.
are evenly matched. Anything else would be a disappointment.
Interesting, they've kind of moved him to the other side, so
How fortunate
she
I am to
becomes
discover
the
this side of
hero,
you.
whereas usually the hero and the character you're
It is
following is
thrilling
on
to meet
the
someone Who
left.
surpasses my own strength.
You seem to be the one full of surprises. Just how strong are you?
The power of an untethered will. Marvelous.
This isn't some romantic display of resolve. I'm equipped with a special function, one given only to the eldest sister, the Alpha Drive.
Okay,
I care
We're gonna
not
get
for
some
the
backstories.
specifics. Just show me more.
it'd be interesting if it turns out he
Sorry to
decides to
disappoint
just
you, Urias
stay
Foreman,
around
but I
and
have to deny
and
that
like
request.
marry
You
her.
see, I've just rebooted and continuing to operate at such high capacity without a full system recovery means I'll go into forced sleep mode. Ha ha. Ha ha ha.
Is this a trick?
I told you, I am angry with you, Urias Foreman. So why should I have any reason to indulge you any further? I gave you what you wanted. You won't leave my offline body alone, will you? Oh, and do not drag it with you either. I will. No. Hehe. I like that feisty expression, Urias. Take care of me now, and I promise
Yeah,
to
it
continue
is.
this
It is past
later.
that point where it is just too robotic.
Quite deceptive after all. But I enjoyed our waltz. You've earned my protection for that, at least.
Yeah, a little too robotic. And I'm guessing where the story goes from this point is we're just going to follow Urias and the adventures of
She has not
Urias
awakened
with
yet,
Mono.
but perhaps these metal beings truly are
And
weaker
he's
than the
not going
earthen
to-
creations of our mages.
Is not going to really be able to
But even still,
do much else. Interesting they have a flashback to
her speed
to
was
a
greater than
custom
that of my
image.
Is
Not a
that
bad
Mono?
idea.
own. Ah, you again.
I see she has used the power of the Alpha Drive. Please get away from her.
Certainly.
This damage is awful. Did you cause this?
Evidence of our battle.
Why? Mono is my sister and your ally. Did she not explain that to you?
She did, but never did I swear my allegiance to you. What? Did you mistake me as some sort of savior? How unfortunate.
What are you doing?
This Alpha Drive power, I find it alluring. Surely you possess it too?
Negative. It belongs to Mono and Mono alone. No one else can wield it.
I don't expect you to perform the same feats as she. No. I expect you to release your own potential.
So yeah, still seems like Urias is just gonna fight everybody.
That's more like it.
It's a shame they couldn't find
A monster.
something better
This is just sport.
to have
A
him
distraction
become.
until your sister awakens. Now come.
Like there was a chance there where he could have grown as a character in the previous chapter, and there's a chance here that he could grow as a character,
Did Belphomet put you up to this?
but I'm not sure if
Don't
that's
make
going to
me
actually
laugh.
happen.
He is the real target here.
Then you
And
do
so
intend to fight him.
it's just kind of
Come out with it.
dull
You intend
to
do
be
the same,
this
do
far
you
into
not?
the main story and still just have him do the same
However,
thing.
However,
And honestly,
this
at a
is
certain
simple
point, he
matter.
might
You
just be
wanted
better
me
off
to
as
defeat him,
a
so you
character that gets
summoned me.
killed off and replaced.
That is not.
Will you two drop it there? Maybe she's just a punching bag to you, but she is my sister.
Yeah, I would just have her
You have awakened.
not have the
Are you fully
monotonous
operational?
robotic voice. I'd just have her
100%.
do just
Although
talk like a
there is an
human,
error somewhere in my internal data,
just like
which is nothing out of the ordinary.
have them
of course.
all talk as
Anyway,
humans.
Urias Formand.
And it would be
What now?
kind of a funny joke at
Have
one
you
point
no
to have
honor?
somebody
You
to
really
say,
are a
how come you
vampire,
talk like a
vampiric
human
berserker,
instead of talking like a
berserk
robot?
vampire
And then they
beast.
just make fun of him
Even
and
though
go,
I nearly sacrificed myself
robots
for your
haven't talked like,
amusement,
never
still your
talked like
bloodlust
that
wasn't sated.
in our land.
It is a thirst for me that has never been quenched.
There is really no
Pitiful.
reason why you
Anyway,
would
you
program
should get out of here, Tetra.
androids
You've still got a
or
mountain of
robots to
obligations, and
sound
if you
like
don't start
robots.
climbing now, it'll just get higher still.
Like when you're talking to
Mono, I
Siri
will
and
not leave
such,
you with such a
they
dangerous
spend a
man.
lot of effort to make them
I'm well
sound
aware of how dangerous he
human,
is.
as human as
Bit more
possible.
than I predicted, but
Although
he's well
sometimes they
within what I
don't,
can handle.
they do like to put a little bit of
Understood.
obviousness to their
Well,
voices so they
Shall we pick up where we
don't
left off?
run into the uncanny
I can
valley
only
issue.
access my battle functions once every several hours. Not that I'd want to right now, even if I could, but I see you biological types recover a little too quickly. Perhaps I won't take you to the hideout. The units waiting for us back there are peaceful. Letting a bull like you run amok doesn't seem like the wisest decision.
I see. Then there is no point in staying.
No, wait. What is with your communication style? I wasn't finished talking with you. Or perhaps vampires aren't equipped with decorum.
But I was finished talking with you. I find your words to be tedious.
I agree with him. Why do I keep siding with Urias?
Can't help my word choice. My diction is selected based on an advanced creative algorithm capable of processing and synthesizing poetry. You'll have to forgive the quirks.
Oh,
That being said, I can't.
you know what?
exactly
I
let
just,
you
with
roam
that,
free. You
realized
tried attacking
what
me
it
in
is.
Tetra, so I'm sure
She's
you'll go
speaking
after
in
me
haiku
next,
in
which is why
Japanese,
I'll
I
be
bet.
accompanying you.
I do
That
not see
would
the
be it.
purpose behind this.
Totally.
You want to fight Belphomet. Well, you're going to need to prepare yourself, and I know just the habitat for a beast like yourself. My home.
So yeah, haiku 343 or 353, roughly. I think it's supposed to be like 3 syllables, 3 syllables, 4 syllables in the second line, and then 3 syllables again. Regardless, even if she isn't speaking in haikus, pretty much all poetry has some kind of pentameter to it. So if she was perhaps speaking like Shakespearean in the way Shakespeare plays are written, iambic pentameter, which I really hate the way that sounds, that might make sense too. So my guess, and this is a bit of a guess, is that In her original Japanese, which there's no way to check this, she is speaking in some kind of rhyming poetry or in a Japanese pun jokey style, which Japanese people love puns, but puns in Japanese never translate. I mean, they just have no way whatsoever of being able to be translated accurately to English, because it's how does it sound in Japanese? Does it sound like another Japanese word? You have to be pretty much fluent in Japanese to understand it. So, assuming that she's speaking in some kind of poem and rhyming scheme, then I don't know why they wouldn't have done that in English somehow. Tried it somehow. So even if you're just throwing in garbage words to make it rhyme, you want to fight Baphomet, but he will just turn you into a pet. Even if you have to just add a sentence there. Well, you're going to need to prepare yourself. And then perhaps adjust your hair like a shelf. Or, you know, just throw in ridiculous things like that to just, I mean, that would double the length of these sentences, but then it would get across the idea of what's happening here. And with better writing, better time, you could probably say you want to fight Baphomet, and then throw in maybe just a garbled word instead of having it rhyme. So you want to fight Baphomet, elephant. Well, you're going to need to prepare yourself like peanut butter. I know just a habitat for a beast like you, golfing. Just, you know, just have it like go make a glitchy sound, and then you could have her as a character sound weird, which is the core of the idea here, is that she needs to sound weird, but you kind of need to know why she's sounding weird. And perhaps it doesn't have to be that she's doing poetry, but their solution here is they've just had the voice actor voice her weird, which doesn't really work because the other two sisters also are voiced weird, and a lot of the robots are voiced weird, so it just kind of comes off as all of the robot voice actors just sound weird, which then inherently makes it feel like they just didn't spend enough money on the English voice actors, which may be the truth.
Here we are. What are you waiting for? Go ahead and make yourself at home. Hope you didn't scratch yourself on any of the rubble.
So she brings
no complaints.
him
The
to
resistance has been on the
a
run
junk
from
pile,
Baphomet for quite
which
some time.
theoretically is a
Every place
third
can
junk
afford to live
pile
in the
that
lap of luxury,
that they use the
so
same
ruins such as
background
these
for.
have become our sanctuaries.
At the very least, they have her
If you try
standing
and take a stroll, even a few
kind of
feet
in
south,
front of
you'll be
this
discovered by the
obvious
enforcers and turned to scrap in
crane.
no time. We've had to abandon convenience and comfort for safety.
They really needed to flip this background at least half the time.
Not at all. But we've grown accustomed to it. Facing Baphomet directly would be suicide. On account of the sheer number of his mechanized forces. Been a long time since this all started.
It'd be funny if they were at war for like a million years.
It's home to some of the resistance. The rusting iron and the failing steel even smell nostalgic. Reminds you of where you're from and where you're going. Hope I haven't lost you with all of my tedious words. So how about you, Urias? Your turn.
She is fairly tedious, though. There's definitely a problem with admitting that a character sounds tedious, because they do. We might get some backstory here.
you prepared to say your last
Which is-
goodbyes to life?
We could use some of that.
Why are you attacking your own kind?
Is it not obvious? I despise those who would indulge in power for no purpose. Your apathy dictates you should not exist.
And what? What have you done with your power?
Plenty. I am displaying it now, in fact.
So he's
You are intoxicated by
a
self-indulgent
traitor to
strength
his
and
people,
hunger only for the blood of humans.
but
Your
I don't think we're
privilege
supposed
live
to
alongside the
think
night is now
negatively.
forfeit.
You are a demon. A demon.
Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to say, oh, Urias is the bad guy because he
But that
killed
makes you an
other
inferior
vampires.
demon, one who does not understand the dance.
What is it? Deep in reflection, were you?
It was nothing.
That's boring. I'll try to guess what you were reminiscing about. Such predictions are well within my functionality. I bet I'll get it in a guess or two.
Prying into personal matters? You're one to speak of decorum.
I don't feel any need to show you decency when you're the one who goes berserk at the drop of a hat. Maybe you don't possess a self-reflective function. I don't either. Oh well. This way.
Yeah. I don't think
Now,
he's gonna
come
feel...
down here with me, but watch where you step. I'd hate to have you cause more damage than you normally
I don't think
do.
like he's gonna have a change of heart,
Why
but
have
he
we
might
stopped?
realize that
What?
at some point
You
that
don't
fighting
see
is
them?
just never gonna
Must
stop.
not have them in your world. They're flowers. If I were to filter them as a theme through my poetry synthesis system, hush, the red-lipped woman bloomed, silent and eloquent.
This is nonsense.
I know you live only for battle, but would it kill you to find at least one other interest? Flowers are as good as any.
It's almost
Stop
as if
toying with
she,
me.
the
Where
voice
is
actor,
Belfort?
thought that she was gonna be yelling some of these
Urias
lines,
Formond,
and
are
that her
you
voice
truly so
volume
rabid?
would just go up and down.
Followed the red-eyed
and then
vampire drifted,
They
empty and wondering.
normalized the
Do you
audio so
realize
that
how
didn't
meaningless
happen.
This bloodlust has made your life.
Nothing can be further from the truth. There can be no greater fulfillment than conducting the dance with an unrivaled foe.
So you've said since I met you, but when does it end? What's left after the dance is over? What if there's no opponent who lives up to your lofty craving? I'm sure you know the answer already.
So she's making a great point.
I cannot grow accustomed to this emptiness, no matter how many times I experience it.
This feeling is all that's left once the heat of war dies.
So what of it?
Perhaps this is rude of me to ask, but I'll prod anyway. Has no one ever looked upon you with pity?
Oh, how pitiful you are, Urias.
Once I would have resisted your words, but perhaps I am indeed the pathetic one. So that's it? You pity me?
Not in the slightest, Mr. Formond. You don't need sympathy. No. What you need is rest. And plenty of it. Surely you feel it.
So it'd be funny if
The more
she
you
somehow
fight, the greater the void
put him to
grows.
sleep.
What if you discovered
put him
greater
back in
meaning
his
your
coffin.
Everlife than simple battle? Even these flowers can provide the essence for something greater.
Did you bring me here just to tell me this?
Indeed I did. Ewan said you were dangerous, but I don't think that's quite right. You seem to fight as if you're clinging on to something. Perhaps it's time to let go.
A foolish notion.
A man who never
It would
turns
be
his
funny
back
if it
on a
turned
willing
out she was some
competitor,
kind of therapy
scared of
robot.
arrest. You can't write poetry this good. The themes are so at odds with themselves, it's hard to comprehend how they exist alongside each other.
Whatever emptiness
We are
I
40
feel,
minutes
it is
into
mine
the
to
story,
bear.
though. It's
You have nothing to do with it.
fairly slow, because
Perhaps it is because because I am the
Urias is
oldest
just
model of my
not
sister.
a character
I
that
don't think
wants
of
to
you as a little
develop.
brother or anything,
So,
but it is in my programming to care.
yeah,
Well, in a
it's
better
taking
sense,
more
it's in my nature. We
dialogue
made
than
a
I would
connection through
prefer.
our fight, but I never
Particularly
want to
when
think
you
of you
consider
merely
this
in
as a
terms of
collectible card game, and
combatant.
if you were just here to
I
learn to
have
play
my
the
fear of
game
this.
and play, you're going through a
Again?
lot of
You are
dialogue.
vexing, terrible at conversation, and worse yet, you recognize only yourself.
Mono is
But I
kind of
understand.
becoming
A past stained in blood,
the
a countenance slickened
pain
by
in the butt
tears.
older sister to
I
him.
don't need my visual sensors to understand you. I feel your essence. You're just like her. Burdens borne and weepings wept, life along a meandering path. I know you because you're exactly like Tetra.
And that's an interesting sentence, but she's kind of just talking to nobody at this point. Yeah, unless this is a really, really short chapter too. We are like halfway through with this, and I don't feel like I went on a long rant at one
There
point.
is purpose in my creation. That's what I've believed.
They could have
since the
used this
beginning.
background more
No,
often.
Greater than believe. It's what I calculated. It took
I
me
probably
a
went
long
on like a
time to
10-minute
realize
rant,
the
but
fallacy in my thinking. I didn't see it when he called me metal scrap, nor when he threw me behind iron bars. No, it was when I fell to the floor. A lone and rusted screw escaped from my body and snaked along the concrete. As I watched it rock gently from the force of my fall, I knew. Even something as minuscule as a screw has purpose. To support something much greater than itself. To hold it together. But I was locked away. A failed piece of technology waiting to be reduced back into source elements. What purpose was left for me? When I took a deep breath, the rust encasing my body cracked and began to peel away. Miserable was the shedding of the copper snake skin, but lying neath the tortuous wrapping was me. And I am Mono.
this is a lot of
I was the first.
backstory with
A
nobody on
corroded
screen.
screw tumbling along the ground. No purpose. Nothing to support.
And I guess the idea is
kidding.
that
You can tell that was meant to be a joke because of how absurd it is. Oh, what I would give for an audience with a better sense of humor. I stood up
Mono
that day
must have
without knowing
been
how long it had
built
since I
and
last rose.
functional for a
Who
long
knows how
time
much stress I
before
placed on
she
my knee
finally got
pistons, but the creaking was dreadful.
like
Brilliant. Be used and
self-actualization,
succumb
I
to
guess
wear,
is the
or
right
go
word.
unused and succumb to rust. Cruel is the life of the machine. But then again, machines are equipped with a variety of capabilities, like this one. Disengaging safeguards.
I don't know.
I destroyed the cell's wall and saw waiting on the other side the sky above and the city below.
I don't know why'd you make a
One of my
robot with
calculations
poetry
had come true.
in its
I
head.
had made it come true. My predictive functions began to turn wildly, and I realized perhaps it was time to test another hypothesis. Airspeed velocity, dangerous. Impact on landing, immense. Effects on structural integrity, unknown. Chance of survival, minimal. Yikes, this tower is tall. I don't think I've ever been this scared in my life. But it's now or never.
So we're
Rogue unit detected.
pretty much just being
Termination protocol
told the
operating
backstory,
regulation.
and your eyes is just not going to play a part at
Lofty
all.
are those that build their tower. Foolish are those that climb after. Can't say I've done either. More like this tower was built around me.
Resuming termination protocol.
But I was certainly foolish to attempt this, it seems. Alas, if only fate had blessed me with a sharper intellect.
Yeah, it feels like now would be a great point for her to not be so ridiculous in the way she
I think I'll
talks.
take my leave. Don't Don't miss me too much, though. I'm leaving you a rusty screw to remember me by. That's when I leapt. Somehow, I kept my predictive functions at bay, telling them to forget the obvious danger. A second later, hurtling through the air, a chuckle escaped my lips. I thought I had imagined it. I wasn't programmed to do such things. But occasionally your programming surprises you.
I wonder, it would be an interesting twist, but I'm not really expecting any interesting twists in this story still. It would be an interesting twist, though, if it turned out that a bunch of these robots were humans originally, and Baphomet is like killing people and putting their souls in robots. That would be a fairly interesting sci-fi story if a world full of robots that eventually realized that they at one point were cyborgs and at one point they were full organic humans before that. And they'd just forgotten.
But I could move, and thankfully it was enough mobility to escape from my encroaching pursuers.
So if you had her talking weird because she jumped and hurt herself.
Guess you can't expect a rusty screw to grow wings, no matter how much it wants to leave its cage.
That might have been better, because I would have given you several sentences that could have just been spoken normally.
Again? You know I don't feel that great destroying you all, but I guess it's no use talking things out.
Of course, she is also telling the story from a memory perspective, so I wouldn't be surprised if she actually did talk normally in the actual past.
I kneeled over the fallen enforcer and opened it up, intent on having a peek at its machine learning functionality, but I found something else entirely. Whoa, a video file. Why is this here?
Interesting. Why would there be a video file?
An image of cruelty that I'll never forget. There she was, a young girl bawling, shrieking even, her right arm blown clean off. And leaking from her now hollow joint, transparent oil. Baphomet did his own shrieking in the background, but in the light, it was the birth of my new sister.
So
this is it,
he built Tetra,
this is why I'm here.
And then immediately blew her arm off.
She was my descendant, the same artificial life form as myself. In this video that was made to tease, torture, and destroy me, I found simple joy. It would be
they really had to
mistake
bend over
this
backwards
happiness
to
for sadism. But that's not what it was
have
at all.
her find
It
out
was
about
something else.
Tetra.
The meaning behind my creation. I found it. The fallacy that I held onto for so long, it was true. I have to save you, my dear sister. That's what you do for family, right? Just hang on. I'll never be a bird that soars free through the clouds, but now I'm okay being just a rusty screw.
What you do have
Now
here
that I've found something
is a
to hold
narrative
together,
that has
I know what I have to
all
do.
of the robots
Purpose of
in
my
this
creation.
world
protect my
be
sister until
very,
the
very
day I'm
human.
destroyed.
With Mono
when that
being the
destruction
protective older
comes,
sister, Tetra
well,
being the
I'll
kind
shake
of
off the rust and just keep on rolling.
lying middle sister, and then Anomany being the young, immature sister. Like that, they all seem to have flaws that you would not really attribute to a robot, per se, but you would attribute to humans. And even the resistance robots themselves do tend to seem to be more human than robot in their words and actions.
This sector has been placed under curfew. Authorization is required to leave residential zones. Please present your authorization.
I do think
Where are your humans?
that there is this
This
point.
sector has been placed under curfew. Authorization
There is a
required
point
to leave
and a problem
residential
with
zones.
writing
Present your
a
authorization.
story where in a world full of robots.
This sector has been
It
placed
would have
under
been a lot
curfew.
smarter if
Authorization
there
is
were
required to
some
leave
humans
residential
and
zones.
some robots,
Please
and the
present your
robots and humans
authorization.
were working together,
Perhaps they will respond
or the
to
robots
violence.
or the humans were all enslaved by the robots at
This
least.
sector has been placed
Um,
under curfew. Authorization is required to leave residential zones. Please present your authorization.
Why would you need to
But it
present
would draw too much
authorization?
attention for now. No one here either.
There's a lot of flashiness in this city too.
I
Like,
just saw some humans in the other sector.
why would you
Why
need
is this one asleep already?
all of these symbols
This
and all
sector
of
has
this
been
light?
placed under curfew.
Why would you need any
Authorization
light?
is
Most
required to
robots
leave
probably could
residential zones.
see in the dark
Please
fairly
present
easily.
your authorization.
Authorization? Huh. I grow weary of your drivel.
Lord Baphomet's authorization is required to leave residential zones. Please present your authorization.
Ah, this dreadful world.
This residential sector has been placed under curfew. Please present your authorization.
This is beyond
They don't
monotonous.
time his attacks correctly there.
I am Tetra, and my world is in danger of total annihilation.
I don't think we need another
A fearsome
flashback
tyrant named Baphomet threatens
to this
us with the
point.
unthinkable.
But now I understand what she meant. This world is indeed heading toward ruin, but ever so quietly.
I imagine he could relate fairly well
What do you think Lord
To-
Baphomet is going to do with us?
to being
Don't say
forced
that
to
out
go to
loud.
sleep
What if
by
the enforcers
curfew.
hear you?
Finally. You there. I am looking for Baphomet.
Ah! Where did you come from?
And
Useless.
I think these two people are the same people. I don't think it's
What are you doing?
clones.
I told you, I am looking for Baphomet. Now, do you have an answer for me?
No, I don't. Are these humans
No, don't hurt her.
or are these robots? Because if this is a robot, I don't know why you would be showing cleavage, but whatever. At this point, they seem to just be the artist's pick half the time.
I
You
shall
could
ask
easily
again.
see how this could have been
Where is
like
Baphomet?
designed originally for like pirates, and then they just added
Get away
a
from
bunch
us.
of
If we tell you that Lord
robot
Baphomet-
stuff on top of it.
Violent behavior is strictly forbidden and subject to disciplinary measures.
Thank goodness, Lord Baphomet. Please save us.
Violent behavior is strictly forbidden and subject to disciplinary measures.
Fighting you is a waste of time. It would fulfill nothing.
Urias Formond,
So-
are you truly so vapid?
Yeah,
Followed the red-eyed
Urias
vampire
is
drifted,
pretty much in
empty
his
wondering.
nightmare scenario
Do
where
you even realize how meaningless this bloodlust has made your life?
where he can't fight anybody of interest to
Nothing
him.
can be further from the truth. There can be no greater fulfillment than conducting the dance with an unrivaled foe.
So you've said since I met you. But when does it end? What's left after the dance is over? What if there's no opponent who lives up to your lofty craving? I'm sure you know the answer already.
I don't know if we need a flashback to something that was just 2 chapters ago again. Like, it does certainly seem like there's definitely room for more editing. And I really wouldn't have been upset if it turned out his story was only 6 chapters instead of 12 or
You destroyed
13.
those enforcers without breaking a sweat.
You're terrible. You monster.
Monster, stay back.
You must be here to drink
Now
our
we're
blood.
getting new
How
flashback.
trifling. I merely seek the knights of your country in the name of battle. You would be wise to lead me to them.
Away with you, monster! Not another step into our land!
Just leave us be, please.
Simple-minded and hard of hearing. I will impart this to you once more, so listen well. I thirst not for blood, but bloodshed. For only the glory of battle with a true warrior can satisfy me. Now be gone!
He does seem to have quite the
This is not the time for worthless
casualty
ceremonies.
count as far as innocent bystanders.
Gotten to me? This presence, it is that man Ewan. He is burning with the passion of battle. A waltz has begun without me. Perhaps I shall cut in and test the caliber of the rival he has found.
Once again, we're not really getting any story here. Much like Luna's Tale, it's just like kind of unimportant nothing that's happening. And at least in Luna's Tale, it kind of made sense that it went down like that. And there was at least a secondary experience where the biggest danger in this is that Urias is going to be presented like he learned something and grows as a character, and then in the next chapter he is just written back to the way he was before in previous chapters, and there really just won't be any growth.
Getting closer.
We still need to figure out what's happening with J2. We still want to find out about the Furies. We still want to find out about Baphomet. We want to know if Narva or some other keeper is giving
Just
power.
keep turning that hamster wheel in your head a little longer, and you'll probably come up with an answer you want to hear. Until then, ta-ta!
So, Baphomet just left.
Baphomet!
Hostile unit confirmed. Initiating termination protocol.
And what do we have here?
Damn it! Jake!
Well, well, loosing yourself to anger. How unlike you.
Urias Formand. How did you...
It's kind of funny that he
didn't
didn't just immediately chase after Baphomet.
That is, unless you want your opponent to prevail.
Sorry. Lost my head.
I presume that was Baphomet. I only saw his back, but he seemed no greater than your average human.
And yet he got the best of me.
Oh? This compels me further to pursue him. And you? What will you do in the meantime?
I have no idea what that would mean.
I'm going back to the Resistance hideout for now.
Did you drag this metal doll all the way from there? One imagines that with your magic, you could simply teleport in the blink of an eye.
Additional intruder detected. Initiating multi-target termination protocol.
Now they have a multi-target termination
Such
protocol,
mystifying
which is weird because we haven't seen
I
them use that
appreciate your
phrase
help,
before
Urias.
when they were taking on
It
two
is
people.
nothing. After all, I did enjoy watching your little display of power. I should have come sooner. What's this? A different kind of doll.
Initiating termination protocol.
That really have them say the same thing
Shall
over and
know the
over
dance
again.
of death.
Yep. I can't help but feel like maybe the reason why we only have the story for 4 leaders
Not half bad.
isn't because
Not
they
nearly enough.
like learned from previous mistakes or listened to feedback,
Baphomet is
but
this
is
way.
actually just
Huh.
because
With any luck, I may run into
they
him
ran out
sooner
of a
than
budget.
anticipated.
Urias Formand, are you
Now I don't know
truly
why
so bad?
Shadowverse would be particularly
Oh,
low
the
on
red-eyed
budget.
vampire drifted.
It seems
And
like as a
you're
collectible
wondering,
card game it is
do you
working
even realize how meaningless
fairly
this bloodlust has
fairly
made your
well.
life.
Although, in all fairness, I
All
would
you've
say
said
there
since
is
I met you. But
perhaps
when
a
does
lack
it
of greed
end?
to
What's left
Shadowverse
after
that
the dance is
maybe
over?
doesn't make
What
them
if
as
there's
much
no
money
opponent who lives up
compared
to
to
your
something
lofty
like
craving?
Magic
I'm
Arena
sure you know the
or
answer already.
Hearthstone. Although I wouldn't even say Hearthstone is
Then the
really
dance
that
shall
greedy.
go
It's
on,
mostly just Magic
for
the
as long
Gathering
as it
that's
needs.
super greedy.
Hostile unit confirmed. Initiating termination protocol.
For not
I
even
think
death
you
itself
for
could
Shadowverse you would
satisfy
be
my thirst.
fairly. You find it fairly difficult to spend like
I have
$100 a
come in
month
search of the ultimate
if you
battle.
wanted to be a whale in this
Anything
game.
else is of
Even
no
buying all the
importance.
skins and crossover stuff, $100 a month would probably cover it fairly easily. Whereas in Magic the Gathering Arena, I think you could easily spend $300 to $600 a month and still find ways to spend more money.
Man, I am just too sleepy. What should I do after my nap? Oh, maybe make that recording.
Data extraction for reprogramming complete.
And watch them cry like a bunch of babies with the hideous, stupid noises.
Shall I load the data?
I have no idea who he's torturing at the moment.
Hold up! Who said you could make decisions around here? Never, ever propose an idea to me again! And don't you dare make a move unless I tell you. Now, go prepare the data.
So Baphomet
Yes, Lord Baphomet.
is basically a child.
Gotta get more rest.
I thought that was more of an
At
exaggeration
last,
as
I
a
have
description,
found
but
you, Baphomet.
I think it's more accurate.
You are the ruler of this world, are you not? That is surprising, considering I sense no great power within you.
Uniform violations, language violations, every kind of violation. Kill this guy.
I warn you, do not bore me.
What was that? The hell do you think you are?
So he must like
You
channel
know nothing
a bunch of
vampires.
power into himself
Shut
to
up.
make him strong.
Wait, I don't? That can't be right.
I shall teach you of my kind.
No. All this right here, it's a violation. Even your very being, everything that should be already is, and everything that is well within my knowledge.
You really think these dolls can stop me?
It would be funny if it turns out Urias just becomes the source of all vampire myths in all worlds because he just keeps showing up and saying, I'm a vampire. Whereas if I was a vampire, I probably wouldn't walk around telling people I'm a vampire.
And imagine my first encounter to find them so irritating.
And here I thought you would be some kind of god.
Please, I'm me, the one and only Baphomet Ardalite.
Really late in the story is
So
to get a
you are
last
not even
name.
close to an all-knowing or all-powerful being.
Now wait just a second. I didn't go that far.
Then why do my words pierce you so?
Because
So he does have a shield of some sort.
anything outside of my sphere of intellect simply doesn't deserve to exist.
That's an interesting
Surely,
warped
everyone
perspective.
feels that the world should revolve around them. I am no different. An unknown element tainting the world that I've created with my own intelligence. Don't make me vomit.
You are raving mad.
What? Are you not the intruder here who has broken into my home in a rampage? Oh, I've got to say, your stupidity is Actually, quite refreshing.
Then shut your mouth and enjoy the fight.
It's gonna be weird if the fight kind of
Sounds like something you want to
happens here,
have a wall to kick.
and then there's not any other character that really fights him, because we know Isabel doesn't really fight him, and Luna doesn't really fight him.
No strength yourself.
Shut it. I'm done looking at you. In fact, I've half a mind to forget about your disgusting existence. Kill him!
A futile effort.
Now we've got even stronger looking robots.
Maybe I should sick the Furies on him, but man, I don't feel like it. I gotta say, you're really grinding my gears. Could you just do me a solid and scram?
So if the Furies are fighters,
Initiating
then I guess the
termination
question
protocol.
will become,
Initiating termination protocol.
are there going to be like
I am well
4
accustomed to tracking my
main
prey,
fights in the
and I
next
shall
chapter?
savor this hunt.
This is another great example of there not really needing to be two of these guys. You could just as easily have had one of them. They're still making that mistake. And the story is kind of hard to pay attention to because there's not a lot being said here. And if it is just for your eyes particularly, it should probably just be less talking, more fighting. Just put in 1 or 2 sentences to justify moving on to the next fight.
Standard termination protocol ineffective. Altering defense measures. Activating shockwave blast.
So now they're like suicide
Hit
bombing him.
confirmed. Recalibrating target.
I am not tricked so easily. More. Die.
Activating shockwave blast.
And you kind of don't make the assumption that they're gonna actually run out of robots
Termination
here.
protocol.
You waste your time.
You know, from where I'm standing, it's hard to see who here is wasting their time. Not that I'm criticizing you.
And then
You're
Mona
just
comes
good at
back
this
into the
sort of
story.
thing.
Mono.
Did I
My
say Mona?
memory functionality is based off an old version, but I didn't need to use any predictive capabilities to know you would be here. A pity it was so easy to figure you out, Urias Formond.
It's funny that Mono can just
Initiating termination
like
protocol.
drop in.
Why have you come?
It would be
Why,
interesting if
indeed.
Mono
The
and
reasons
Tetra
are countless,
and
so I
Anima
just
actually
share
are
with
the
you my
Furies,
primary rationale.
and
Your
he's
actions are
reprogramming
putting
them
all
in
of
secret.
us in grave danger.
Absurd. Are you all not also working to bring Belphomet to his knees?
We are. But at the same time, Belphomet is allowing us to live. Think about how many enforcers he has under his command. If he thought to snuff us out, he could do it as easily as twisting a screw. But he doesn't. Strange, don't you think? The only thing stopping him is pure whim. At least for the moment. Belphomet is a child who does what he pleases when he pleases. I mean, look at me. I waltzed into his domain, and not even a single guard has attempted to attack me.
This does
Get it?
lean to
He
the
doesn't
idea
care about us. He knows
to
he can
maybe
destroy
she
us
has
at his
more of
leisure,
a secret
so he
or
just goes
more
about doing
power.
whatever he wants. Now, what do you think would happen if someone came along and posed a real threat to his regime?
And you are satisfied living under his whim?
When the time is right, we'll stand against him. Allow me to rephrase that for you. Until the time is right. Please refrain from doing anything stupid, Urias.
Huh.
You do kind of run into this problem
Initiating termination
where,
protocol.
once again, you have Mono
Tell me,
being
how long will I have to wait this
like
time?
2 feet shorter than him, and
That all depends.
that
Now, can you
puts
please
the
take
eye
care of this
line
little problem in front
being
of
a
us?
problem.
My pleasure.
Or they should probably put the shorter characters looking up at some angle. Or they should just shrink down the image. It really wouldn't be that hard to just make sure everybody is within a foot or two of each other at most. I would say half a foot, really, in height.
There. You know our situation now. I imagine a brute like you will say you don't care, but I'll check anyway. You're probably bored of fighting endless waves of enforcers, aren't you?
Is this how you plan to manipulate me?
Bold suggestion, considering you're the one pulling the strings here. I've been there to greet you, show you flowers, and dance with you, and this is the thanks I get. It's exhausting.
Do machines become tired?
Machines experience fatigue. Well, newer model enforcers can maintain near indefinite operation as long as they're not tampered with. So your confusion isn't mistaken. It's just not applicable. You have the appearance of a gentleman, but that doesn't extend to your charms, does it? Look, I'll need an escort out of here, and you're here, so get to it.
It is hard to believe that one who thinks herself weak could enter this tower completely unharmed.
Hard to believe? The same could be said of you. It's hard to believe that such a well-dressed exterior could harbor such a corroded soul.
I do
So
grow
that they're
weary of
becoming
these pointless battles and would
frenemies,
rather
I
end this
suppose.
sooner than later.
Friends and enemies at the same
You
time.
Vampires get tired. Maybe you should pick up a hobby to help you relax. How does growing flowers sound?
Perhaps it is I who is in need of an escort.
I thought as much. Well, you're in luck. Come, Urias. We're leaving before your emptiness catches up with you.
Yeah, seems like kind of an abrupt character shift for Urias. And it kind of feels like it would have been better after this point to have Urias see Mono get hurt and actually care that she got hurt and actually care about somebody else.
We've arrived. What do you think, Urias? After so many worthless confrontations, isn't this wasteland stretching before you simply exceptional?
It is hollow.
Well, I can't imagine anyone wanting to live here. Corroding heaps of iron, smog from the mana forges, walls battered by enforcer crossfire. Not the most picturesque locale, is it?
Assuming that you defeat Baphomet, how will you go on living? Do you plan to subsist for eternity in this tiresome world?
That's an interesting question
That is
for a
the question,
robot.
isn't it?
It's like-
Personally, I couldn't care less what happens afterward, so long as my sisters are at peace.
So the only aim in your struggle is to defeat Baphomet. Perhaps you enjoy battle more than you wish to admit.
Oh, how embarrassing! I forgot to mention something. I'm going to break down soon. You know, like, permanently.
What?
Among my sisters, I was the first to be created. I was something of an experiment, you see, and my age seems to have caught up with me. My internal system errors are becoming more numerous. And what's more,
I don't think we
whenever
needed
I
the
utilize
music
my alpha
in the
drive
background
system, the errors
for this.
become more frequent.
I can see why they'd want to
Essentially
use it,
speaking,
but
the more I fight, the more I die.
I feel like you'd
I
have more
imagine only a
impact
few
in
more
silence
uses
to
remain.
You
tell
intend
this
to
part.
die fighting Baphomet?
If that's how it must be, but nothing is set in stone. After all, I didn't have to unleash my full capability earlier when I visited you in Baphomet's lair. Alas, woe is the flawed construction teetering on the precipice of collapse. That's me. But Tetra and Ania are different. They're top-class units with nearly perfect builds. Vampires live forever, correct? We're completely opposite in that regard. I guess that's one reason I've taken such a deep interest in you.
How foolish. Perhaps because you are a machine, you do not understand the true value of life.
Oh, I do. It's not like I want to decline into scrap, but if it's what must be done, if it will protect my sisters, the Resistance... No, it's not for them. Well, it is, but most importantly, I'll do it for myself. I'll make my own purpose in this world, and that's all there is to
It
it.
still feels like some of this is not being translated quite right.
Urias, you live for battle, even though you understand that's a hollow existence. What sparked your obsession? My curiosity's killing me.
If I tell
It's
you,
an
what will
interesting
you
question about how much
admonish me once more?
of a human body has to exist
I learned my lesson there.
to turn it into
Weren't
a
you listening?
vampire.
My disdain
If
for
they
you has
filled her
transformed
body with
into...
blood
Oh, what did I call it before?
and then he bit her, could he turn her into a
Interest.
robot vampire?
Ha! I was born in a world enveloped by the Shroud of Night. Unlike the other vampires who are imitations of my kind. I was born as I am.
So
Among vampires, I was a paradigm, created
Apparently,
with a natural right to power.
he was one of the first
I sought
vampires.
to test that power against whomever I could find.
I can only guess how many you murdered.
The
And
deaths
at
were
a certain
many.
point, maybe
Knights,
vampires
warriors,
forget their own
women,
past
the young and the old, entire clans.
if they're like millions of years
slaughtered
old.
without pause. But it was never enough. There is nothing more irritating than the shrill cry of the impotent as they breathe their last. I found no joy in this fruitless slaughter. This world is brittle, impermanent. Where are the gods? Where is salvation? Why bestow this power onto me when there are none who can rival it? I questioned my very existence. Forever in darkness, forever asking the same question.
I'm not sure with this backstory.
The answer was not
I'm not sure if Urias has
esoteric
ever
as
made any other vampires at all.
Let me guess. Battle? That's all it took to cure Urias Formond of his angst? To give this impossibly powerful vampire a reason to be?
Indeed. The dance. Long ago, a knight from an insignificant country grazed my cheek with his blade. It was my first wound. It was the first time I ever felt pain. From the moment I saw my own blood falling to the ground, something inside of me changed. I finally understood my true purpose.
You're saying you were born to continuously test worthy foes with your overwhelming power?
Precisely.
It is an
Only when I dance
interesting
with the
thought.
worthy that I feel alive. That I feel
It's kind of like
that I
a
exist
good
for a reason.
backstory for a bad guy. It's like
It is the
this
dance that gives me
belief in a
purpose.
divine
It is the
purpose
dance
to
that gives my power
to
purpose.
fight other people.
It is why I will fight until the curtain closes on eternity.
Interesting. It popped up the next button here before he finished talking. Yeah. I feel like since vampires have to be stabbed in the heart or their heads have to be chopped off, usually, or like their mouth stuffed with garlic, then their heads chopped off, and sometimes, but since those are kind of the basic ways that you kill a vampire, and one assumes vampires generally are described as not having souls, so maybe you would have to cram a soul in her, maybe you'd have to cram a human heart and a human brain in her, and a lot of blood. So, but I also, since we're already genre bending here, between fantasy and sci-fi, it really wouldn't be that far to believe that they may just find some magical way in which he could use his power to either turn her into a vampire or fix her in some way, heal her in some way. And certainly any other person could heal her or fix her. Isabel is a likely candidate for that, but it would be less impactful than Urias deciding to help someone and save someone, which would be actual character growth. And you can't really write Urias as a character that is going to grow in power, because he's already, at least in his own mind, the most powerful character in the whole story.
And thus gave my life meaning. But among them all, one man, Balthazar, truly brought me pleasure. He was as powerful as he was willful, and when he tore through me with that naked sword, I felt at peace with falling against such a man.
It's
So,
quite intriguing that
seems
anyone
like
would
he
make you
wants
feel that
to
way.
die
I'd like to meet this man myself.
subconsciously.
But I suppose that will never happen. In a sense, he was the one who made you the man you are today.
And yet, in fighting him, I came to forget the fragility of mortality. When I awoke from our duel, he was already gone. That is when my thirst grew deeper.
You really are a creature worthy of pity. But I feel like I'm repeating myself now.
Still
He
hate
said
her
something
voice
similar.
acting half the time.
That a being who knows only the lust for violence is a wretched creature.
J2, my child, my precious boy.
Yeah, we still hear
Come
this
to me,
announcement.
J2, my child, my precious boy.
What was that?
I imagine it's Baphomet's trickery. And according to the conclusion my predictive functions have worked out, it's the especially terrible kind.
I do not doubt your words, considering you have history as his toy.
Punching bag might be a more apt description. Or a simple tool built from boredom, broken for whimsy. Actually, no. Toy is the perfect word.
She does
Do you
kind
not
of
wish
look
to
like a
see what
toy.
this scheme is?
More than I can bear. But it seems that won't be possible for the moment. Look. Company.
Warning, entry in this sector is prohibited.
So
An
why
invitation.
specifically toy with
He
J2?
sends them from time to time. There are probably more swarming around this sector. I'm far too weak to handle them alone. Now, if you wouldn't mind. Well, let's get a move on, Sir Urias Escortius the Unsympathetic.
You would do well to forget that moniker.
Oh, have I struck a vein? You make it too easy, really. Ah, wait just a minute. I've just received a transmission from Tetra. She says to meet back up in Hideout D. Do you know what that means? In case it isn't clear enough already, it means rebellion.
Ah, so your
So they
clan
do
Skulls
kind
is
of have
finally ready to take
a
action.
frenemy relationship,
We'll see, I
but
suppose.
I do
It
think the
seems
first
Tetra's made
4
up her mind at
to
least.
5
Guess that means
chapters
I have to also. Oh, and
could have been
guys,
better
that whole
written
thing
to
about
have
my
them.
imminent doom. Let's keep that between us.
It could have been better
Now
written.
I must ask, why?
It would just complicate the issue. Tetra particularly would lose her drive to see the Resistance's mission through. I dare not throw a wrench in her motivation.
That is not what I am asking. Why did you inform me alone?
Why? Oh, cursed stars above, blessed hells below. I hate my vocalization system in these tense times. Everything that comes out turns to snark or euphemism. But I guess... Well, I guess I've grown quite fond of you.
The
Yeah.
absurdity.
It does feel like Mono
You live
grew
forever.
more as a
You
character
live for battle.
than Urias
And
did.
despite those
But he did
immutable
grow a
traits,
little bit.
Even a weak coward like myself can appreciate how much much intrigue surrounds you. Come, Escortius Formon. We have a maze of
Don't
rubble
know
to
why you'd ever
navigate.
animate people
And when
with
we find ourselves
a
there in the
winking
heart of the
animation.
labyrinth, let's see what this final chapter holds.
Why do that? That makes no sense. And then that's gonna leave us with the last part that's pretty bad. Let's take a moment to look here. You have like 3 chapters here with no fighting at all. And then you have quite a few chapters with some fighting, and then 2 chapters without any fighting, then 3 chapters with fighting, and then you're back to the beginning. Which I kind of appreciate that, certainly. But I would put this as the worst of the stories so far.
Looks like we're all
It's,
here, Tetra.
but it's still nowhere as bad as some of the worst
Things are
stories
going
in the
to work
previous
out.
chapters.
With our forces combined, there's no way we'll lose.
And they are leaving
I
some
appreciate your words of comfort.
mysteries with J2 that
You know,
seem like they
I
won't
have
be
decided
resolved
2
until
things.
either we do Yuan's
First,
story
I'll come clean
or until
regarding
we
my
get to the
sins.
next chapter.
And secondly, I will make amends for them, starting now.
Yeah.
Everyone, I told you that so long as we have access to your backup data, then you need not fear destruction.
Okay.
But
I'm trying to
this was
think.
false. If you are destroyed,
They're
I do
definitely
not know of a way to restore you.
in these sentences, like
I
the
have lied to you.
4 previous sentences could have been broken down into 2.
You're joking. Then this means my sister.
And then I would have cut this down to just no, you're joking.
This is
My
awful.
sister, she'll never come back.
Tetra, we trusted you.
Leave that completely out.
You placed your
Maybe
faith in me
keep
as your
J3
leader,
in there since
and
she's
I accepted it in turn.
important.
I felt my purpose was to guide you, protect you. But the more I
Skip
cared,
everything before
the
I
more
felt my
began to
purpose.
deny what was happening.
That first
I wanted
sentence can be
salvation
gone.
for our people, a new world order. But it seemed like an impossibility, and I let fear get the best of me.
Skip everything before I
wavered when I should
let
have
fear
known
get the
valor.
best of me.
I am sorry for what I have done to you. I have no right to stand amongst you as a fellow robot. I have no right to stand amongst you at all.
See. Skip the first sentence in that. Skip O Tetra.
When I first
Although maybe you
recognized
throw
I am
that
nothing
in
more than a
since...
flawed machine,
I mean, you really
I
don't
felt
need
an
her to
intense
say
fear
anything.
deep within my circuitry. But then a dear
Skip the first
companion
sentence
told me
there.
to turn that fear into hatred, and that hatred into power. I remember his eyes were steely and sorrowful as he spoke.
Rewrite all of this, but
Everyone,
keep it in.
I have wronged you, but I will not let my sins decide our future. Which is why, from today, I will face Baphomet with all the force I can muster. No more hiding.
Maybe
I will
rewrite
fight
all of
the
that.
tyrant that threatens us. The tyrant that threatens Iolon.
Probably don't need any of that. Probably don't need any of that.
Baphomet is as fierce as he is cruel. If we attack him head on, he will surely employ any means necessary to win, no matter the casualties. You, me, his own forces. The destruction will be immense.
Maybe cut everything before
If
the
you are caught in
destruction
the
will be
crossfire,
immense.
You may not make it back. The only one who could repair you is Baphomet himself, and I assure you that will not happen.
Yeah, that's
This
fine.
life is the only one you have, but I am pleading with you to lend
Although,
it to me, so that we may fight
these
together and
sentences
save our
are better
world.
than the previous sentences in the previous section, so maybe get rid of the previous section. Get rid of the sound
I'll
effects.
fight. J3.
Keep
Are you
J3.
certain? Knowing that J2 and Io won't ever come home, it's almost
We still
too
don't
much to
know
bear.
who Io is, but we did hear her
I want to
mentioned
reject
before.
this sadness, but that would be like rejecting the fact that they were destroyed by Baphomet.
But
I'll accept this sadness.
I'll stop
and change it
editing
into
at
hate.
this point, but I think I've made
I'll
my
take that
point.
hate and
It's
turn it into
fairly easy to
I am glad
to
hear that.
have cut
Thank you, J3.
the dialogue in half easily in the speech and turn it from being a 10 to potentially 13-minute scene down into a 6-minute scene. Or maybe it actually is just a 6-minute scene, but it feels like a 13-minute.
We might not come back from this.
Well, Urias, I imagine you're elated to know the conflict to end all conflicts is soon upon us. Are you prepared to see my sisters in action?
Do not disappoint me.
And these lines of dialogue
I just hope I can do my part.
aren't really that useful.
I'll help too, Ania. We'll fight together. Thank you, Luna.
How about you? Looks like you've already made up your mind, though.
Am I really that easy to read?
Not at all. Just thought you'd want to keep an eye on your allies. We'd be glad to have your strength regardless.
Then I'm in.
It's not really a lot to say when this is the third time we've seen this scene.
I ask you now to place your trust in me. I will not promise you anything.
Honestly,
I will make a vow.
instead, if you just have a fear of editing your writer, like if he just doesn't take editing well, which is a bad sign for a writer,
Let us prepare.
you could easily have just not had this scene play out at the end of each of the leader section, and instead had this scene play out at the beginning of the next section. In previous chapters, we have seen them just show the Shadowverse symbol and put a to be continued. The story could have ended there and been a to be continued, and then that scene could have played into Gears of Rebellion Uprising as the next thing, and it could have been on the cliffhanger that Tetra is calling everyone to assemble. Like, you could literally have 2 sentences. Tetra is calling everyone to assemble. The time of rebellion has finally come. That's all you really have to say. Meanwhile, as we're still trying to cover the main story, we have this Code Geass crossover, which I'm spending my time grinding, and I'm up to the point where I think 3 or 4 more times beating Cornelia with one of each of the characters. Actually, I've gotten down to the point where I'm not actually beating her with each character once, I'm just playing against her once with each of the leaders, so 8 games in the cycle with the hope to get mostly victories there. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to really have any problem grinding this out. There's the Seer's Globe, which I think is worth the effort because I think those are going to be particularly rare, and a couple more packs of Fortune's Hand is certainly not going to be a bad thing. But I'm also failing miserably still, and I've said this several times, but it's still the case. I'm failing miserably to get any kind of ranked, unranked, and I can't really play Arena without spending tickets. So it is pretty hard to get temporary gems, and now I have all the daily quests back, so let's re-roll that. So off screen I need to get 5 matches with Dragoncraft or Bloodcraft in main story or practice, which also I think includes the quest as part of the main story. It is right in between main story and practice. So now I need to spend some extra hours getting all of those done as quickly as possible. Also worth mentioning, I am in the ranked play at the bare minimum for rank D0 at 1200 even. I don't think I can fall any further down below. There is definitely work there. Do I have any new emblems? I would think maybe I would, but maybe I don't because I haven't actually played any of the main story. And right now I am in this weird position where the main story isn't getting progressed even when I'm doing the daily missions, because I'm trying to save as much time as possible. This game does still seem to have a bit of a high cost for itself. Yeah, there's nothing to mention here. It's just the same thing on sale. Although it does seem like we have now run out of the special promo sale, which was about $30 to get 10 packs of Fortune's Hand. So now I'm just waiting to see if Fortune's Hand is really going to stop being the most recent expansion in like a week or in like 3 months. Let's open another pack in celebration and then call it a recording. I suppose it is a fairly odd way to criticize a game, to just look at its main story and then open packs, but for a collectible card game, honestly, opening packs is about what the main game is. We have another Arcana Auteur. We have another Fairy Assault. Summon 4 fairies, give them rush, enhance to evolve them. I did find a setting when playing the game that will put the enhanced price right below the regular price. So you can see multiple prices and have a quicker understanding of whether you want to play that card or not. It is really nice how much you can customize in this collectible card game compared to other ones where there's basically no customization in Magic Arena or any other card game I've ever seen. Here we have Pop Goes the Poppet. This might be our second one. Destroy an enemy follower, then deal X damage to a random enemy follower. X equals the damages the destroyed follower's attack. Dragon Impact. Give +1/+1 rush to a Dragoncraft follower in your hand. Deal 5 damage to a random enemy follower. I did try to build a Fairycraft deck. Try being the operative word there. I still really don't have enough cards, and there will be definitely a thought in the back of my head to maybe only do like a 30-pack opening for the next expansion and then reevaluate and see if I need to open a bunch of basic cards too. Deal 3 damage to an enemy follower if Wraith is activated, or Wrath is activated. It's Wrath if it's spelled R-A-T-H. It's a Wraith if it's R-A-I-T-H. Recover 2 play points. Another Juggling Mogi. I have also hit the point where I do have like 3 copies of the non-animated versions of cards. So just for sanity's sake, it kind of makes sense to liquefy those. Here we have Strike Lance Knight. If an allied commander card is in play, evolve this follower. This is a new card. And oddly, I don't think that's like a particularly high rarity at greenish yellow. Maybe that is a high rarity. Like, I still haven't really figured out what the color scheme means. And then we have Tyrant of Mayhem. Draw a card. If Vengeance is not activated for you, deal 2 damage to your leader. Otherwise, deal 2 damage to the enemy leader. And here you have just like a demonic creature that looks new too. But at the core, as far as the tradable cards, I don't think I've gotten any more of these. So I've gotten 1 there and 1 there, so that's 2, and 2 here, so that's 4. So I've gotten 4 out of what I suspect is 13 cards, because that would be like ace through king, and here you can see a 12. But yeah, that's my general guess, is that there's probably about 13 of them. So, still haven't really made great progress as far as getting all of the Fortune's Hand cards. Let's see if we can quantify that a little bit more. Fortune only, create cards. We're missing 1 on the low end, 2 on the next page, 2 on the next page. Remember, you can also get animated versions of all these cards. 4 on the next page, 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 and 2 on the final page. So yeah, that is a lot. That is definitely a lot to consider. And that is not even accounting for things that I might very well have a temporary version of the card versus actually having the real versions of the cards. So here's like a great example. We have here the animated version of Goblin, and then you have the non-animated version of Goblin. And I guess the only reason why I have 3 copies of that and 3 copies of that is simply because it's a basic card that was given to me in the main story. I thought I had opened so many packs that I had somehow hit that naturally, but it seems I was wrong. Okay, well that makes it easier. Is this a basic card too? Alright. Let's go and filter down to basic cards only. And let's just see if we've got approaching a full collection here. This kind of sucks because I would like an option. For a game that does have a decent number of options, I would like an option to filter out the non. I guess you could just go with animated only here, and that would work. Or you could go with just normal, and then that's weird because normal still includes the animated versions. Oh, how are you gonna filter that? Oh, because you have to uncheck the animated versions. I see. So that's I guess the way you have to deal with it, but in the end that's all that's gonna, you're still gonna have to deal with it and just see that you have a decent amount of animated cards in the basic form, but not all animated cards too, so there's something to be said with that. And I guess I just have a complete collection of all the basic cards, which does then open the door of about, maybe it's the classic cards that I need to craft. Yeah. We have a very, very small collection of classic cards. But I don't know if classic cards are playable in rotation. So it may not really make any sense to have classic cards. That does put you in kind of a quandary. See if I recognize any of these cards from play. No, I really don't. So I don't think classic cards are included. Then, you know what I'd like to learn is show me legendary, show me all, and let's see how this works. So, this has green, it's labeled as legendary. This has yellow, and it's labeled as legendary. Yellow, yellow, yellow. This has bluish purple. It's labeled as a legendary. So that gem does not mean rarity. I have no idea what the gem means then. The gem probably means the class type. Let's see. Forestcraft, green. Yep, that's what it means. Well, that's confusing to say the least. Green gem. Green gem. Green gem. Yep. All the Forestcraft cards have a specific green gem. And I guess these would be neutral class cards. They kind of have a grayish gem. Well, I learned something. And that is what we're trying to do here more than anything, is just learn the secrets behind this game enough to understand. Well, is there anything else to say or do? No, I don't think there is. So that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.